FM News Talk 97.1. On demand audio.
The court has upheld the legislation. I think, and I have to see the specific language, that they identified with how we wrote the bill in the House as part of the decision, their documentation for the decision. Call it what you will. It is a step forward for America's families. And you know what? Take yes for an answer. This is a very good thing for the American people. What you're talking about here is Washington talk. The technical terms, that's for us here. What means something to the American people is what it does to them.
But you said it wasn't a tax. Is that technical talk? That sounds like a politician. But we can't throw out all politicians with that statement. We got to be very specific. That was Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House, talking about answering the question, well, they rewrote the legislation in essence, and I'm paraphrasing the question, and called it a tax. It's not a penalty. So you sold it. You said this wasn't a tax. It doesn't matter. That's Washington speak. State Senator Scott Rupp joins us now. He led the fight with Prop C against Obamacare. He is also running for Secretary of State. And Senator Rupp, great to be with you. Crane Durham sitting in for vacationing Dana Lash.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to hear you again.
Absolutely. So tell me, what do you do? What does Missouri do now? They rejected Obamacare, and the Supreme Court, through gymnastics, definitely has upheld it. So where do we go from here, Scott?
Well, what Missouri should do is continue to do what we have been doing. It is our refusal to create a health insurance exchange, which is the building blocks for Obamacare in the states. We stopped our governor from creating one via an executive order. We are trying to put that on the ballot for this November so the people can say, no, we don't want you to have this power. Because we've seen other Democrat governors try to go around the legislature and create one that way. But we were vindicated a little bit yesterday in the fact that since we refuse to create an exchange, then therefore we Missourians don't have to pay for the exchange, because they were going to dangle some money for the first 5 years for states to pay for it, and then it would all fall back on Missouri taxpayers. So since we didn't create one, it doesn't fall on our taxpayers. It goes on the federal government if they want to create one in our state, but we won't do it.
There's been a lot of criticism from the other side, supporters of Obamacare, who say, everybody wants to repeal this, and you don't have any solutions on your end. On the state level, what can you do to help Missourians achieve a better health care system?
Well, I mean, there's several things. The first thing we did is we dealt with the out-of-control growth in our Medicaid and welfare population in 2005. So that's why we're not Illinois, we're not California, and those states that are almost bankrupt. We're one of the fifth most financially sound states. So then by doing that, we're on strong financial footing, and that means you have more of a vibrant economy, and if you can get more jobs in your area, then people have a job. They can purchase their own health insurance. But rather than having the federal government come in and say, you need to increase your Medicaid population, states can't afford that right now, so how can they afford a whole brand new program when they can't even afford what they're having? So Missouri just trying to make it a free market approach and encourage job growth. That's how you get people back on their feet so they can purchase through the private sector. They can purchase health insurance.
We were just joined by J. Christian Adams, of the author of the New York Times best-selling book Injustice and former member of the Department of Justice, and he was talking about how voting rolls in Indiana, and he mentioned Missouri, are not up to snuff. I mean, they've got people on those that are maybe possibly dead, but it exceeds the population numbers that we have. As Secretary of State, how would you address this?
Well, we have the same problem here in Missouri, where we have some cities and counties that have more people on the voter rolls than the last census says even lives in the whole county. And a lot of it can just be done with technology. And unfortunately, our current Secretary of State, who's not running again, thank goodness, it has not been, putting the emphasis on cleaning up these voter rolls, trying to identify, illegal immigrants that are on the voter rolls and things of that nature. I can go to Jiffy Lube and they can tell me that, I last changed my oil in Carthage, Missouri, and then 2 weeks later I changed it in another state. So I have the technology that is out there. You can track these things. Other states are doing it. Missouri has just fallen behind because of poor leadership.
When you see a federal government, and specifically the president, skirt the law when it comes to, or invent, or by executive order pass his own law, even though a year previous he said he didn't have the power to do it, talking about Obama's Dream Act 2.0, and then you see him not enforce elements of DOMA, and you look at what Obamacare is doing in the age of abortion and taxpayer funding for abortion, and specifically with the HHS mandate of violating the conscience and really not allowing those to practice their faith because they're imposing a tax on them that violates their beliefs to cover items, obviously, like abortifacients. Overall, when you see that type of approach, now more than ever, Scott, that we need people to remain true to the Constitution and the rule of law?
Yes, you need people to remain true to the Constitution. They need to stand up for the way the Founding Fathers, that the states are sovereign. They're not controlled by the federal government. Here in Missouri, we've already passed a piece of legislation, and it's on the governor's desk waiting for him to sign it, if he does, that reestablishes our right for religious freedom in our state. So once again, we're just continuing to stand up for the power of the states, to stand up to protect its people from an out of control federal government that, just yesterday reaffirmed that it has the ability to tax us whenever they want, as much as they want, and now they're going after our basic liberties of religious freedom. It's really the answer has to come from the states. That is where the pushback has to begin, and individuals waking up and electing the right people to federal office. But a lot of this fight is at the states, and Missouri has been a leader on standing up, whether it's been religious freedom or fighting back against Obamacare and health insurance exchanges. And we'll continue to do that in the heartland, and I think that's what we're becoming a model for a lot of other states.
That is State Senator Scott Rupp, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us right here on The Dana Show, FM News Talk 97.1. Thanks, Scott.
Well, thanks for speaking the truth. Good to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother. All right. Scott Rupp, State Senator and candidate for Secretary of State.